The following is a list of Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held for a demand of income. The demand of income is being made against the family as well as through fraudulent submissions of documents alleging that they are caring for the people in some sort of long-term care fashion. These Moors have been kidnapped literally off the street by employees of various corporations that are guised as counties, cities, towns, township, boroughs. These names that we have all been mentally conditioned to believe are government are not. They are exactly what they say they are. They are municipal corporations, and as such, they, if you do the research, you will find that they are foreign corporations on American soil. Therefore, they do not have standing nor jurisdiction to make a demand of income or even bring a claim against the Aboriginal indigenous people or any people on American soil, this making their actions criminal. However, as Moors, we must bring these crimes to the forefront via civil complaints against these unalienable constitutional treaty-secured rights of the people, Aboriginal indigenous Moors of this land. If the municipal corporation has been provided, then we reference that along with the union state. If we don't have the municipal corporation where the employee works that actually did the kidnapping, then we just reference the union state that is bound and obligated to protect the people from foreign and domestic invasion. This list comprises Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held hostage by employees of various corporations on American soil, which is a violation of the American Constitution 1791, and it is a treaty violation, being that we are talking about Moorish Americans, Aboriginal indigenous to this land, who have been kidnapped by employees of foreign corporation on American soil. This making this an international issue because you have two nations with one nation warring against another. Therefore, this is an international issue. If you have a family member near or far within your immediate family or one of the family that you know and you would like them added to this list, please send an email to MHHS-Eyes-Wide-Open@gmail.com. In the subject line, put Kidnap More, and please provide us with their free national appellation, the municipal corporation that the employee is operating through that kidnapped them, along with the union state that this corporation is in purview to. So with that, we start out with our sister Abkare Bay, kidnapped through a joint venture between Memphis Corporation and Shelby Corporation under the purview of Tennessee, Daoud Il under the purview of Arkansas, Amir Moslemin Il Kusu Ra Kush Bay under the purview of Missouri, Asar Patan Amin Ra Bay under the purview of Ohio, Jeremy Paler Il, Terry Thorne Bay, J. McCall Brooks Bay, Joseph Kanaday Il, Kush Amir Bunch Il, Emmanuel Billings Bay, Yassin Khalik Alamin Il, Michael Curry Bay, all under the purview of North Carolina, Noble Crisco Il under the purview of New Jersey, Messiah Aziz Il and Crystal Il, both kidnapped through a joint venture between Mercer Corporation, Freehold Corporation, and Trenton Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. We're still waiting on an update regarding baby Patricia Bay, kidnapped by Atlantic Corporation under the purview of New Jersey, Eldridge Terran Fisher Il, Marquis Sevion Il under the purview of Indiana, Solomon Il Bay, and Mumi Abube under the purview of Texas, William Barrett Ill under the purview of Virginia, Bomani Abidwil Ill, kidnapped by Chesapeake Corporation under the purview of Virginia, Che Ray Bay under the purview of West Virginia, Thomas Lee Bay under the purview of California, Victor Eduardo Aguaye Juarez Ill, kidnapped by Harlem Corporation under the purview of Georgia, Natro Tahuti Ill, kidnapped by Benner Corporation under the purview of Pennsylvania, Rennie Bay, kidnapped by Hamilton Corporation under the purview of, Hamilton, Ontario Corporation under the purview, well, actually, it's Hamilton Corporation. The state would be Ontario, and that's that would be a union state, and it's on American soil that is referenced as Canada. And last but not least, Brian George Mills Bay, kidnapped by the employees working through Glades Corporation under the purview of Florida. Thank you very much.
All right. Oh, my goodness. Ah. Boy, I tell you, Mercury must be doing his thing, because I'm having all kinds of technical difficulties. Oh, my God. Oh, my gosh. Let's see. Let me get my bearings. Islam, and welcome to MHHS-Eyes Wide Open. This is your host, Anita Ill, along with my co-host, Ms. Raheem Olive Ill.
Peace, honey. E. Peace and love, Moorish. Ma. Joy, everybody. Yeah, Mercury retrograde. I've been feeling that, too.
Oh, my God. Okay, then we have Ryan Bay.
Well, Islam, peace and love to everyone, and to Mercury as he does his stuff, because it shall unravel, or it shall go direct on January the 8th, which is the Prophet's Solar Return. So all the stuff going on now, what you're saying and everything like that, it's all going to get straightened out real soon.
I look, let me tell you, today's 30 can't come fast enough, because let me tell you, I was on the verge of sending you a text to tell you you're gonna have to take over and go into the studio, because my computer locked up. I had to reboot it, and then I got into the studio, and then I was trying to print what we were going to talk about, and the printers went down.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Oh, my God. My computer went down again after I got in, so I said, let me log in quickly on the on the tablet. So it was like I got in through the tablet, and then the computer comes back on, but it won't serious. Oh, my God. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was getting ready to log in anyway. Yeah.
Couldn't get the chat room open. But we're good. We're good. I wanted a hard copy so that I could make some notes, but it ain't happening right now. So I'm just going to continue on. So I want to send a big shout out to our internet listeners. The chat room is finally open. Peace and love to our family listening near the corporate construct known as Great Britain. Peace and love, family listening near the corporate construct known as South Africa, Japan, the Netherlands, Islam Brother Albacet, family listening near the Philippines, the family construct known as Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Islam, Puerto Rico, Islam, family listening near Cuba, Mexico, Brazil, Venezuela, and to family we have yet. Oh, excuse me. Islam to the family listening out there near Panama. I got your message, Islam. And also, big shout out to Islam to our family that we have yet to connect with. Big shout out to those who call in, filling up the phone lines before the broadcast even begins, lending your energy, participating so that we can all grow and uplift fallen humanity together. Peace and love. Now, tonight's broadcast is a very interesting one. It's interesting in terms of the information, but it's also interesting because it seems as though this week everyone has been tuned in to this particular subject matter. And so what I did was I put together a syllabus. It's copied and pasted out of the Black's-Law 4th edition dictionary, some definitions from the internet, some historical reference information, and I sent it out via email to everyone that I have an email for. If you would like a copy to follow along, you will need to send an email to MHHS-Eyes Wide Open, and please, what's the word I'm looking for? Bear with me, because there's some technical issues going on. So we're going on with the show. If you would like it, if you don't get it, you can just in time just listen, and I'll get it to you after the broadcast. So with that, before we continue, I just want to let everyone know that Cujo is not going to be with us tonight. He is listening, but he has some other obligations. He may be compelled to chime in or not, but he has some other obligations, but he is listening. All right, so in conjunction with the Final Call series, this broadcast is entitled From Penal, that's Penal, to Penance. On many occasions, we are told that we must adhere to, quote, the law, end quote. The missing word before the word the law used to be penal, as in penal law. How many of us have looked up the word penal, its etymology, where it originated, and who it was to apply to? Join us today as we investigate further constitutional violations of the people by the imposed alleged, quote, penal law, end quote, penal code, and let's not forget the penitentiary/penal colony people are sent to in order to work off the alleged penances. So, you know what? I sent this out, and I put it all together, and I forgot to put the page number. So let me see if I can. It's from page 1289 out of the Black's-Law 4th edition dictionary. I'm going to read to you the definition of penal, and then there's some other definitions all the way to penance, because I think it is very pertinent for us to understand what this word means, what it entails, and how they're using this on American soil. Very interesting. All right, so the definition of penal, now remember this is out of the Black's-Law 4th edition dictionary, page 1289. Penal, punishable, inflicting a punishment, containing a penalty or relating to a penalty. Then we have action upon a penal statute, an action for the recovery of a penalty given by statute. an action which enforces a forfeiture or penalty for transgressing the law. The term penal is broader than criminal and relates to actions which are not necessarily criminal as well. The term penalty, in its broad sense, is a generic term which includes fines as well as other kinds of punishment, but in its narrowest sense is the amount recovered for violation of the statute, law, a municipal ordinance, which violation may or may not be a crime, and the term applies mostly to a pecuniary punishment. The word forfeiture is frequently used in civil as well as criminal law, and it is also used in actions for a penalty, although the action is a civil one. Distinguished from a popular or kitam action, in which the action is brought by the informer, to whom part of the penalty goes. Information is brought by an officer, and the penalty goes to the chief. But in American law, the term includes actions brought by informers or other private persons, as well as those instituted by government or public officers. In a broad sense, the term has been made to include all actions in which there may be a recovery of exemplary or vindictive damages as suits for libel and slander, or in which special, double, or triple damages are given by statute, such as actions to recover money paid, usury, or lost in gaming. But in a more particular sense, it means one, an action on a statute which gives a certain penalty to be recovered by any person who will sue for it, or two, an action in which the judgment against the defendant is in the nature of a fine or is intended as a punishment. Actions in which the recovery is to be compensatory in its purpose and effect, not being penal actions, but civil suits, though they may carry special damages by statute. We have the word penal bill, an instrument formerly in use by which a party bound himself to pay a certain sum or sums of money, or to do certain acts, or, in default thereof, to pay a certain specified sum by way of penalty, then termed a penal sum. These instruments have been superseded by the use of a bond in a penal sum with conditions. Then we have the word penal bond, a promise to pay a named sum of money, the penalty, with a condition underwritten that if a stipulated collateral thing other than the payment of money be done or forborne, the obligation shall be borne. Then we have penal clause, a secondary obligation entered into for purpose of enforcing performance of a primary obligation, and nature of penalty is by way of compensation for damages and not as punishment for failure to perform, violation of the preceding clause. Then we have penal law, those which prohibit an act or impose a penalty for the commission of it. Strictly and properly speaking, a penal law is one imposing a penalty or punishment, and properly a pecuniary fine or mulct for some offense of a public nature or wrong committed against the state. Strictly speaking, statutes giving a private action against a wrongdoer are not penal in their nature, neither the liability imposed nor the remedy given being penal. If the wrong done is to the individual, the law giving him a right of action is remedial rather than penal, though the sum to be recovered may be called a penalty or may consist in double or triple damages. Where a statute is brought penal and remedial, as where it is penal in one part and remedial in the other, it should be considered as a penal statute when it is sought to enforce the penalty, and as a remedial statute when it is sought to enforce the remedy. Then we have English criminal law is a punishment which consists in keeping an offender in confinement and compelling him to labor. Then we have penal statute, and it says the penal law, which we read previously. Then we have penal sum. A sum agreed upon in a bond to be forfeited if the condition of the bond is not fulfilled. Then we have penalty. The sum of money which the obligor of a bond undertakes to pay in the event of his omitting to perform or carry out the terms imposed upon him by the conditions of the bond. An agreement to pay a greater sum to secure the payment of a less sum. It is conditional and can be avoided by the payment of the less sum before the contingency agreed upon shall happen. By what name it is called is immaterial. A punishment imposed by statute as a consequence of the commission of an offense. Also, money recoverable by virtue holding a payment by way of punishment. To constitute a punishment or penalty, there must be a deprivation of property or some right, such as the enjoyment of liberty. And lastly, we have penance. In ecclesiastical law, an ecclesiastical punishment inflicted by an ecclesiastical court for some spiritual offense. Now, we also have the etymology of the word penal, and it says Old French, penal, A-L, from medieval Latin, penalis, from Latin, poenalis, from poena, which means punishment, from ancient Greek, pon, punishment, from Proto-Indo-European. Now, penal, of or relating to punishment, penal servitude, subject to punishment, punishable of a penal offense, serving as a place of punishment, a penal colony. And then I gave the definition of, this is out of Wikipedia, where they give you the definition of penal colony, and I just want to read this, and then we're going to, wrap it up. I'm going to wrap it up. A penal colony is a settlement used to exile prisoners and separate them from the general population by placing them in a remote location, often an island or distant colonial territory. Although the term can be used to refer to a correctional facility located in a remote location, it is more commonly used to refer to communities of prisoners overseen by wardens or governors having absolute authority. Historically, penal colonies have often been used for penal labor in an economically undeveloped part of a state, usually colonial territories, and on a far larger scale than a prison colony may be little more than slave communities. The British, French, and other colonial empires heavily used North America, Australia, and other parts of the world as penal colonies to varying degrees, sometimes under the guise of indentured servitude or similar arrangements. The British used colonial North America as a penal colony through a system of indentured servitude. Merchants would transport the convicts and auction them off to plantation owners upon arrival in the colony. It is estimated that some 50,000 British convicts were sent to colonial America, and the majority landed in the Chesapeake colonies of Maryland and Virginia. Transported convicts reported perhaps 1/4 of all British immigrants, that's EMIGRANTS, during the 18th century. The state of Georgia, for example, Edward Oglethorne, by using penal prisoners taken largely from debtors' prison, creating a debtors' colony. However, even though this largely failed, the idea that the state began as a penal has stayed both in popular history and local lore. The British would often ship Irish and Scots to the Americas whenever rebellions took place in Ireland or Scotland. And so with that, there's so much more that I could read. And then there's another article that I included that you can read, at your leisure, that gives you a little bit more historical background. But I just wanted everybody to just listen and note that they're literally telling you that your British colonies, which today are referred to as the state, and then there's sub-corporations, which are known as county, city, town, township, boroughs, these are all penal colonies. They're still penal colonies. The only difference is they got you paying they got you paying a penalty, but you don't even know what it's for. And they don't even have any jurisdiction to impose it on the Aboriginal indigenous people, nor do they have a right to impose it on those modern Europeans who did, in fact, declare their independence from Great Britain. When we look at, and this is why it's so imperative to do the history on the municipal corporations that you may be near, because they are all, every last one of them, acting as a penal colony, and you, every day, are being forced and compelled under threat of life and property to participate and pay penalties of which you ought not to be paying. You ought not to be coming under these things, but you will if you don't do the necessary research and call these violators of the Constitution, the treaties, and the law of this land out. And the only way you're going to do that is through civil suit. If you're constantly having these little conversations back and forth with these employees of these municipal corporations, i.e. penal colonies, no one on a national or international level is ever going to know. And that is why if you ever walk into any one of their little hearing rooms with any kind of recording device, they will shut it down because they want to keep it all a big secret. This is very much like what they say Hitler did. He kept it a secret. That's why he was able to get away, and that's why he was able to do those things for such a long time, because it was a secret until the secret got out. How did the secret get out? By the people, one way or another. The secret got out, and that's what needs to happen here. The secret has to get out. People need to talk. Well, not necessarily talk. People need to write down, few minutes, create a paper trail. Let everybody and their mother all around the globe know what's going on, because that's how the secret gets out. Islam?
Islam. And this all came about because, and then let's talk about this for a second, because you just show them proof that they're penal colonies under British or English law, right? That's what they're That's what they're dishing. Now, this means, like, for instance, what they're doing now, from what I understand, at least I had at least one or two people say, "Oh, they got me for false personation because you showed them your national ID card." Well, first of all, you got to understand they're very desperate right now. They will so-called charge you with anything, but because we don't know who is who, as was just expressed, and we're not taking that position of knowing who is who and who they are not, right? And many of us think we're under the jurisdiction of equality, even if we didn't know, but we try to express that, and the Constitution clearly expresses it. You know, what a state can do, what a state cannot. And then we also recently brought out that for instance, the driver's license instrument is a federal program from the Department of Transportation, and it is only for those who are drivers. Then you got to go into, well, what's a driver? Well, a driver is not a traveler, that's for certain. A driver is someone who is doing commerce or getting paid to carry cargo, cargo, goods, and passengers for hire, meaning getting paid. You know, you'd have to be a taxi cab driver in order to say you were doing commerce, or a truck driver, et cetera, like that, carrying goods and cargo. So all of that brings all that to where it is. So now they're very desperate. So now they're going to say to you that you were, what was the exact charge? Well, it's false personation is what it's called. It's number Penal Code 190-23 out of the New York Penal Directory. Okay, that's the number. So you look at false personation. You say, okay, what's false personation? A person is guilty of false personation when, after being informed, now hold it, after being informed of the consequences of such act. Well, first of all, you got to be doing the act. I don't know which comes first, being informed, or are they trying to tell you that you are doing that act and you should know that you're not? But anyway, after being informed of the consequences of such act, he or she knowingly misrepresents his or her actual name, date of birth, or address to a police officer or peace officer with the intent, so you got to have intent now, to prevent such police officer or peace officer from ascertaining such information. False personation is a Class B misdemeanor. First of all, they don't have any reason to ascertain any of that from you. Period. You're not. So now this falls, I don't know, Anna, if you got to look at this, I know you said your thing was down, but this all seems to fall under commerce, issuing bad checks, false advertising, fraudulent stuff. All right. Well, what is fraudulent for you, for Moors who are traveling, is that, all right, it's clear that they're trying to tag you as belonging to the penal colony through instruments such as your date of birth and your actual name. I mean, who are they to tell you what your actual name is? So what do? You go to what you know in regards to using a quote-unquote name, and the laws there. You can be employed, do business, enter into other contracts, sue and be sued under any, quote, name you choose at your will. Linden versus First National. So who's impersonating who? What do they mean by false personation? You have the right to correct your name and choose your free national appellation. That is your free will of self-identity. So when they say you're person, who are they talking about you're falsely impersonating? It doesn't even make any sense. It doesn't make any sense unless quiet under the chin, under the cheek or whatever, they're saying, yo, you're impersonating a Moor. They're not going to tell you that. And they're not going to show and prove that. And I don't know if that's what they're saying. I'm trying to figure it out. Because they could, but they won't. But they could, because they don't want you to be who you are, the more American national. So, we're trying to figure this out. But it's an easy thing to get out because, first of all of this crap right here is for those who are what? Under penal colonies.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a more American national, you're not in no penal colony. This is why it's so dangerous for us not to understand the jurisdiction. However, if we did understand this all this time, this stuff would have been nipped in the bud. See, they're just bringing this out now as a definite act because of the consciousness raising, and they know that most people have not done any bit of study in terms of, most people do not enforce the law. But if you say you're more, you're supposed to know the law. So they're throwing anything at you. So think about it for a second. Who would you be false impersonation of? You know who you are. You have a right to, be whoever you want to. And also, like I just read the case law. So you got to know these things in your dial plate so that you know how to respond to them. And they're just saying, look, all this stuff is for penal colonies. Y'all keep calling us government. Y'all keep calling us the law. We're going to act like it. We're going to act like you're under our jurisdiction because we're so desperate that we'll find anything to throw at you. Remember you were talking earlier, you were saying that ex post facto. Now, if you look in the Constitution, the states or anybody they contract to, which would be what? Those municipalities, they are not allowed to make any ex post facto law. Do you know that after they hinder you, which is a violation, then they might really arrest you, because just hindering you is an arrest, really. Then they'll find something to charge you with. They do it all day long. Like if you don't do what they say, as they pretend to be law, then they say, well, we're going to charge you with resisting arrest. Well, what arrest? There was never an arrest, right? So when they do that, they're doing ex post facto. If you look in the Constitution, they're forbidden to do ex post facto. Now, I know some people are listening saying, well, I don't know why y'all keep talking about the Constitution because they're doing what they want to do. Well, they're doing what they want to do because you and I, and all of us listening, are not coming and enforcing that which is the law. So it's easy picking. They can pick anything. They're falling like crazy in trying to find anything. It's called ex post facto. You got to hit them back. You got to, be on this court. This court is not necessarily the courtroom, but it's just life, period. So your opinion, my opinion of this false personation, I don't know if you got it. I just read it, and it's so clear. And you had brought out, and you might want to speak on this, that when it says here, a person is guilty of false personation when after being informed. What do they mean by when after being informed? Informed by who?
Mm-hmm.
Have they ever posted it? Did you get a mailing? Did you get something in the mail at your house that told you, hey, by the way, we just created a 190.23 false personation, and therefore it is assumed that you know it? Well, first of all, it's not for you anyway. It doesn't apply. So what do they mean by after being informed, the consequences of such act? How are they seeing it? What are they talking about? What's your guess on that?
Well, see, these people, what they're doing is what they always do. They have a set amount that they're trying to generate. So they're putting, in essence, what they're doing is they're putting the cart in front of the horse. The cart would be the penalty because they already looking for an amount. The horse would be the so-called penal statute. And by the way, I just want to say this because a lot of people, they're so into the statutes. That's not law. Statutes, that's why it's so imperative to know that American Constitution 1791, because right there in Article 1, it says that the all legislative power is vested in the Congress of the United States. All executive power is vested in the states. Actually, it's the President of the United States of America, which can trickle down, because they what do you call it? They will assign or delegate to the various states. The president can delegate to the various states the executive portion that they are supposed to be, the executive portion is simply administrative. So when they start talking about statute is an administrative policy written of the law, but it is not the law. So when they come at you with the, for example, this penal statute that they're referencing for, that they're saying is some sort of false impersonation, well, what law is that administering? Right. What law is it administering, number one? And number two, where is the sworn affidavit from the person that you're supposed to be impersonating?
Very good. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a good one. I would love to. I ain't gonna say I would love to anything. Yeah, that's a very good question. So are they talking about the quote unquote birth certificate, name, date of birth, that fiction? Is that what they're talking about?
No,
I don't know. Have they shown up to say, hey, this guy's falsely impersonating me?
Yeah, I mean, they're the biggest impersonators. The accusers are the biggest impersonators in that situation, though.
Yeah.
Like, because they're the ones who are claiming, because everything goes back to identity and nationality. That's just the bottom line of the whole situation, is it all goes back to identity, the earth or territory or land, because you can impersonate yourself, see, because you have that right to self-determination, period, bottom line. But, I mean, for a pilgrim to accuse a Moor or Al-Moroccan or American, of impersonating themselves is the highest contradiction. That goes right back to color of law. So all of that, that's not law. That's, like you were saying, those statues, those are color of law statutes. It goes back to, things just been modified, whereas it started, well, I can't say it started, but you had the Christian black codes, which evolved to these statutes that they're using today under different names. So they're saying that it's law and statutes, but like you pointed out, this is an English concept that they introduced in 1853. According to what I'm looking at, it was introduced in 1853. So, that's a new concept in a certain aspect, but then we could say, well, if you go back further than that, we had them, in concubines and in caves and things like that. But that wasn't for penal aspects from how that story is told anyway. That wasn't necessarily penal. That was experimental. So it's a difference. But with the aspect of stripping somebody's freedom and ability to move, that goes back to this new concept. Because remind you, the penal colonies, like you said, but they still came in on this wave from Great Britain, as Englishmen, etc. So, they still hold fast to that after, they basically, through deed or through actions, pledge their allegiance back to, those foreign nations, etc. So that's what you see. Mm-hmm. But the penal servitude aspect, though, that's serious. I remember traveling. We was in the area of North America that they called North Carolina, and there was brothers on the side of the road, chain gang, as they call them, picking trash with picks, like, So still have that aspect in operation under color of law, though, because it all goes back to identity, meaning that there's so many substantive rights, whereas you can correct your appellation on the common law, under natural law, you know, liberty of conscience, by birthright, self-determination, things like that. That's something that the accuser has no standing to even make that claim, you know, like whatever color of law they're dealing with, it honestly does not apply to the natural people of the land, meaning, you know, there's different, I mean, the law of the land is the law of the land, but in the special aspect, there's different laws for different species, meaning that when crocodiles hunt or the carnivores in the animal and kill, they can't be charged with murder because those laws don't apply to them. They're different species in nature. So the same thing with Moors and Europeans, like the same laws don't necessarily to apply to us in our natural state, in our natural existence. And the most self-evident one to prove that, well, we don't even have to have a long conversation about it, it's just the natural test of being out in the sun on a hot summer day. You already know who will be the last man standing in that situation. If you put a melanated Moor next to a pilgrim, a European, you know, a modern European. So through nature, there's different laws that apply. But the thing is, we always got to keep in mind that they're operating from a wardship status, because even when you go or when you look at the penitentiary, who's running it is the warden. So wardship is always in the midst of what's really going on. Exactly. And what they do is assume the role of a parent or a owner, no different than they have cows in the stalls, and, you know, they're limited because they're overseen. They're not necessarily in their natural existence always. Like, they might be on some big acres, but they're bound or confined to that acreage. Same thing when they have overseers or wardens, you know, overlooking people's existence in a box, you know, whereas they're looking at it just like that, like chattel, like, you know, any other natural thing that they've captured and tried to manipulate the consciousness or mind of, to see them as a superior, you know, whether they had to use the lash to, you know, inflict that psychology on the animals or on the people, whatever. They have a specific detailed plan for people to assume that they have power, right? So the position of power is one that they've structured to be assumed for the most part. You know what I mean? To be assumed without question. So again, you know, the penal aspect of it all, when I look back, I remember the only people back, like, starting out young, start just in childhood, you know, the only one who had the right to penalize or punish you was your parents or those in the neighborhood, or who had the concept of a village. The elders of that community had certain permissions, but that was a principle that was never supposed to be lost, because even back then, if you was a minor, quote unquote, and I mean literally underage, like, the policy enforcers, they can never do anything without, you know, parental supervision, meaning that if you were underage, if you 10, 11 years old, they can't ask you anything without your parents being there, though they do that today. But I know that's a fact. But what happened is they didn't have jurisdiction, and they still don't. So what they've done is assume that they are the parent, and this is where you get the wardship aspect coming in at, and treating everybody as subjects. So, you know, just like your parents may have had house rules. If you broke the rules while you were young, you get punished, whatever the punishment was. Maybe you couldn't go outside for 2 days, or maybe you couldn't watch TV. Whatever it was, that's a concept that comes from the home. It's actually discipline, I would say, or trying to give you that demonstration. I would say they've done is took it to the super max, next level with it, and are treating the people just like chattel. You know what I mean? And that's what you see. So again, those color of law statutes that were created by pilgrims, modern Europeans, with no territorial jurisdiction in the lands of America, including Canaan land, all of that doesn't apply to us unless there's consent. Because just like they told you in the Declaration of Independence, that those who govern have to derive the governance from the consent of the governed, meaning that you have to consent. So without that consent or attaching yourself to that, because you got to always remember it's voluntary and involuntary servitude, but that doesn't necessarily, make that applicable to you unless you consciously do that. Just like, what works for the birds doesn't work for the pilgrim. It's the same thing with many different species, So, and it is what it is. So, the penal law, it goes back to identity, the right to self-determination. Man is mine, it is, again, got to re-emphasize the fact that it is an aspect of psychology to mentally arrive at identity achievement. We can't strip you of that. Not even to go into different, mention the fact that, you have the right to, be who you want to, be yourself. You know what I mean? Self-luminous. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, things like that. And all of the quote prophets got in their proper person as well. So let's keep that in mind.
Let's say this and put in perspective, a perspective also. Like when I just read a case law that says you can do business, be employed, whatever, in any name, quote name you wish to, right? These case laws that many people may not have ventured into knowing about or heard of or whatever, or took the time to study, you might be wondering, well, where did that come from? Because listen, people have enforced, mostly modern Europeans, have enforced the Constitution before. The problem is Moors, who are the object of generating finances, who have been the object of generating finances because they have been out of their proper person and identity, now they're coming to this consciousness and doing the same thing. And they're losing finance greatly in that. This is why, when we read these case laws, you may be thinking, well, where'd that come from? Because we're not the first to exercise and enforce our rights. It's just that now it's our inalienable birthright. It's just that now there's so many Moors are starting to do it. They're frantic. So they're just trying to keep you in that status because, and as we said before, many people, they're out there going, they're doing commerce. And we said, okay, all right, no problem. So what's their merchandise if they're doing commerce? Yeah. You can't name their merchandise because they don't have any. They've been using you and your improper person as the merchandise. And now we're raising
lack of information.
From lack of information. And this is why it's right. But, hey, what about this? What if this was going on? What if, if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. I got that. But from lack of knowledge, lack of information, even saying what if we had enforced all of this before? The deal is to enforce it now, for now and for the people coming up. because it is the remedy. They will be scurrying, but you think that just because you caught them with their hand in the cookie jar, I remember that was said to me a while back. If you caught them with their hand in the cookie jar, right, still in the cookies, you think they actually want to take it out? They want to bring a cookie with them. You know, so this is what it is. This is where we're at. And if we were all talking the same language, which it doesn't mean you're subscribing to mine or I'm subscribing to yours, we're subscribing to the ancient rules of law that protect us. And then this would be a breakfast fight. Now, I don't think nobody has to come up with arms and guns and do all this stuff, because I think that if we all were to come up to this place and do what we're supposed to do in terms of enforcing and exercising our rights of birth to just breathe, they would rather be kinder, provided we do civil suit to them, because that's going to be part of it in order to make them change, than to deal with fighting and having, war or whatever in the streets. The only people that are going to do that in the streets are them against each other, because they have nothing to offer. They have nothing to offer on your ancestral estate if we come up to the point of that. They're going to be upset with themselves, I mean, come on. Their stock market is dropping. They thought they had money. They don't have that. A lot of chaos that's already ensued now, really, across the planet. But that's how it's going to go down. And that's when you need to know to coil back and stay out of the streets while all this stuff is going down. So I just wanted to say that this is not new information. A lot of people think, well, they're not following the Constitution. Well, guess what? That's the problem. And that's what we need to do as well, because at minimum, it keeps them from molesting you. And even those who are in the temple and have done and studied the prophet's work, he said the same thing. Enforce the Constitution that is for the United States of America, which are the colonies, the penal colonies, right? The Union States, right? The foreigners, right? He said enforce it so that you're not molested by these other citizens. Not no news. It's just that we haven't done it. So you can't say, oh, it doesn't work, right? Can they say, oh, it doesn't work if you never tried it? Never worked it?
Sure can.
So.
That's a big issue. And I think we as a people individually, we need to really look into ourselves and ask, why do we seem to have a challenge with enforcing that which our ancestors, provided for us and all people of this land? Because it's not just specific to the Moors. Yes, it protects us, our home, this is our ancestral estate, but it protects anyone who's on American soil, all right? So why is it that, it seems as though there are those who run away from enforcing the American Constitution? Why is that? We need to we don't need to answer this. We need to look within ourselves and ask ourselves, individually and private, why do we run away from that which our ancestors left us and run toward what, has been touted as the greatest thing since sliced bread? I mean, because that's what I get. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Oh, this is the remedy. Oh, this is the remedy. No, the remedy is the American Constitution. I mean, if we would just study that and look at it, I mean, really, when you get into that American Constitution, you've got to pull out your Black's Law 4th edition dictionary. You've got to pull out your unabridged prior to 1965 5 dictionary, you've got the etymology dictionary. You've got to pull out your Latin dictionary. And when you start going through that document, you realize just what type of brilliance you come from. Why would you want to separate yourself from that? I'm just saying, why? Every time I go into the American Constitution, every time it amazes me, and I learn something every single time. And when I put anything up against it, like a neon sign, it's like, you know when you were a child, and you had the little decoder thing, and you would put it up to the paper, and it would show you the hidden message. It's putting the Constitution up against any of these so-called statutes, ordinances, codes, policies, and procedures. When you put any of that crap up to the Constitution, it's like a neon light showing you where all the holes are in this fraud. I know our ancestors got to be rolling in the grave, that which would be some of us, because there is no time. So, we're looking at our other selves rolling in the grave like, oh, my Jesus, when are they going to wake up? I left them a crumb trail. Why are they going somewhere else? I'm just saying that I can't talk enough about. I could talk forever about the American Constitution because it's just that amazing. I can never stop talking about it because it is just that amazing. And for all of those out there who always wonder, well, what should I study? Study that. Study the American Constitution, 1791. For all of those who want to teach their children and don't know what to teach them the American Constitution. Start them from 5 years old and show them how to open up the dictionaries and look for words. And I mean, just if we did that, it is a no-brainer. It really is a no-brainer. It really is. It's not even complicated. Right. It's so simple that it's like, what is the confusion? It's there. It's simple. It's not the crap that people are running after today. That's complicated.
Oh my goodness! And in grave error. I mean, really. And like, okay, all right. So we've always identified them as corporations. Then you have the case law that says, oh, these governments, calling themselves governments anyway, because they went in saying, just like you keep calling them, government. And so the case law say, yo, government, huh? Well, governments don't have, they're corporations. Y'all corporations. And y'all have no parity with the real flesh and blood being. That came out of that false charge or whatever they call themselves doing with somebody.
You know what? I want to telling you. I am begging you, people, go to the Ivy-based Publications website. Go to the Sisters Standing on Law page and go down and pull the document, Letter to the People of Great Britain, 1774. All right? Pull that document and read it. And then go to the American Constitution. What you're going to find, this is not just for Moors. This is for those modern Europeans who are listening. It's peace to you. And those modern Europeans who may or erroneously calling themselves Americans, all right? You're not Americans. You can't, as long as you're running around talking about you're American, you're a plaintiff in error just like Dred Scott. Just like him. But this continent, this landmass, it is protected land. It is free to everyone. And that American Constitution, 1791, it was written to protect everybody, Moors and modern Europeans alike, from every single corporation on this landmass today. Single one of these corporations on American soil today, they are raping and exploiting the people. They're stealing, they're depriving, and they're enslaving the minds and the lives of the people. Every last one of them, because not one of them came over here on a ship with the resources and the supplies to build whatever they're building. They didn't come over here with that on their back. So where'd they get it from? They got it from American soil. How you going to get it from American soil? You see, American soil is just not North America now. Okay? Because the Constitution, this is the supreme law of the land. And I'm going to tell you what I discovered this week. Because I went and I was looking at the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights. And I've read it. I read the whole thing. And the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights is the exact same thing as the American Constitution, 1791. It is the exact same thing. The only difference, the only addition it has is it speaks of everybody has a right to a nationality. So what does that tell you? It tells you that the American Constitution is not just for the North American continent, it is for planet Earth. Right. It is based on universal principles. That's why it is the United Nations, the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. Universal Declaration on Human Rights. Baby, you need to read it. It is the American Constitution with some additions that should tell you something. That means that all around the world, the people are supposed to be protected from infringement of every single corporation in existence today, and yet everybody has been enslaved with all of these penal codes, penal laws that are really statutes that is not law, but it is the administration of a law that no one has been told about. And if you go and you look at the statute, administrative law, that's what it is. It's referencing a law in the Constitution. For example, Title 49 is a statute. What is it administering in the American Constitution? It is administering interstate commerce. Interstate commerce. It's right in the Constitution. It says Congress has the right to make law regarding interstate commerce. Well, what is the administrative portion? What is the administrative body for that law? It is called Title 49. And then these states get to take and make their own policies and procedures to administer a federal program which they're allowed to participate in, but they don't sponsor it because only the federal government can make law regarding the roads that go in and out and around this land. Only the federal government can do that. The states can't do that.
So,
all right, so we need to understand that. Go ahead.
But I need you to say, you said Title 49, but now you read Title 49, and who does it say it's for? Title 49.
It says it is for those engaging in interstate commerce. That's what it says, interstate commerce.
And then what's that other thing where they describe those who are engaging in it? Don't they call them what? Drivers?
That's correct.
Okay. So then they give the definition of a driver.
It says that it defines, believe it or not, it says in Title 49, it gives you the definition of a driver. It's not anyone going to the grocery store to buy groceries for your family. It's not anybody who is going to and from to their parent daughter's home or their friend's home or their homeboy's home or their homegirl's home just to chill out. It doesn't apply to people operating, functioning in their private capacity. You're a traveler. You're not a driver. And you can do both. For example, your day job could very well be, for example, driving a transit bus or a subway or even a plane or a train even. But if you're not acting in that capacity, that instrument doesn't apply.
So, and maybe this, and what we're sharing here is the facts regarding it. So that means that there is a distinction between a driver and a traveler. No doubt about it, right?
That's right.
And so
there is a huge distinction between it.
Okay, when you look at so then it says, a driver is a person, let me see, I'm just trying to find the thing where it talks about drivers.
You know what's crazy? I saw a video today. It was a monkey riding a motorcycle, like a monkey riding a motorcycle. I was like, damn, even the monkeys exercising their right to travel. Literally. And right. You know what I mean? Like monkeys.
So that is interesting. Well, I like that Mantis Views 29 one you put up where you showed, children actually operating. Now here's another thing. In Title 49, it specifies all the definitions, right? Traffic is commerce, trade, the sale or the exchange of such things as merchandise, etc., like that. They have strangely mixed truth and falsehood. So they taught us, and our children that they needed to have a driver's license when that was not the truth, so that they can gain generations of people who would participate and clip their own liberty of what is it? The liberty of being able to go to and fro without hindrance. So if you are a driver, you have a what? What do they call your conveyance is called the vehicle, right? In the driver's instrument, in the driver's
motor vehicle.
A motor vehicle.
A motor vehicle.
So you can identify yourself as a driver, and you cannot identify your conveyance. Now you can call it an automobile, though, right? That you can say. That's not under. What we're trying to say is those terminologies. Once again, jurisdiction is powerful. Juris is the right, and diction is the word. So if you say I was in my motor vehicle, you just admitted to doing commerce. I know it sounds, silly, but it's just so true because words are everything. So a driver is one who is employed either by an owner or they're driving their own motor vehicle, but they're still doing it for payment. So when you look at the fact that you're a traveler, then you go to the definition of a highwayman. It says those who go upon the highway, go upon the highway. Let me see if I can find it. It's on the driver's license fraud rate. It says a bandit. So these police officers that you think are, the government and all that, they're actually bandits who rob travelers upon the highway. That's called a highwayman. So when they say, we're sending out our highwaymen, they're saying they're sending out their bandits. And what do they do but rob travelers? It's not even, it's just a matter of lack of knowledge. Hell, it goes all the way back to what Yeshua said. People suffer for lack of knowledge, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
If we collectively got this and enforced it with such force, we'd be okay. It would be. They wouldn't have gotten as far as they've come. So now that it's coming to where people are becoming conscious. Look, they want to beat you in the head, beat you down. They want to keep you in the penal colony, and you're not in it. The penal colony is on your ancestral estate. That's why we tell people you can't be a citizen of U.S.A. You can't. You just cannot, because that's just a new terminology for the Union states, or actually for what? The colonies. I mean, that's in history. You can see it. So now the other thing is, right, and the other thing is people, we talked about this before, Moors weren't defeated, they were just weakened. We can be strengthened by waking up and having our knowledge back. But people say, well, they conquered the Moorish lands. No, because the land can't be bought, sold, or transferred, and the people of the land, if you're standing there and you know who you are by descent nature, and no one can change your descent nature, then you're not conquered. You're still living and breathing, and you have a right to do so. Because it's true that the modern Europeans came over here originally through the British or brutish Moors as, in fact, servants. And they are the ones who gained their independence with the assistance of the Moroccan government, who wanted to cease and end all slavery, which is the reason why the Constitution has those slavery clauses, as people say, that are in there. But it was for the purpose of ending slavery. And that brings me to one other thing that just passed January 1, and we wanted Dave to explain that. He had did the study on that, what January 1 was, Ms., out of the history where all slavery was supposed to be ended. So that was really what that date was for. But since they still have the people,
Yeah, that was the date they put into action the prohibition on the importation of slaves from Africa.
Is that in 1808?
Yeah, I think that was 1863.
Okay, because I know in the Constitution they actually talk about 1808, where they can't, and you know what, they can't, because what they were, I mean, in 18, I think it's in, where is it? I just happen to have my Constitution right. I think it was in, well, no, because in 1808 they say it's really talking about the right to travel in a way, because it says that they can't they was charging them up to $10. Remember, this is 1808. $10 was a lot of finance, and they was charging them $10 to leave, to come into a state. And remember, at that time they was talking fort. So if you left out of a fort to go to another fort, which today is called a union, which today are referred to as a state, you had to have $10 to pay to get in. If you didn't have the $10, you wasn't getting in. And so in 1808, here it is.
Yeah, that's the same year, 1808. You're right. That's 1808. The act prohibiting importation of slaves. Yeah, 1808.
Because see, slavery got so good too. Here's the interesting thing, because what you're talking about really was in the confederations where they were in their, as you call, forts or colonies or whatever, and they were paying to go from one to the other. They're talking about travel, but we're talking about the modern European Slavic, the slaves that came over with the British.
Exactly. Here it is. Right. Let me just read it. It's in Article 1, Section 9. Expiration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit, shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation not exceeding $10 for each person. So they're saying that they were allowed to charge the people $10 for entering into a state. But after 1808, they could no longer do that.
Oh, but they do that now. I guess they kind of have a fiction on that kind of sort of with tolls.
Well, yeah, they do that with these tolls. Tolls is a violation of that right there. It's also a violation of ingress and regress because, and that's from a constitutional perspective. But guess what? In the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, it says that you are supposed to have the right to leave the area where you currently live and return minus any, where is it? Where they say that you cannot return. You're supposed to have the right to leave and come back without being hindered or extorted of any finance. I mean, is that that is an enforcement of the American Constitution. That's it right there.
Yeah, so now we get to see that many of the issues we complain about are already taken care of if we would enforce the Constitution and the law regarding it.
Yeah.
That's what we see, clearly. Yep. But let's clear something up because some people get a little confused about the slavery thing and they say, oh, well, I thought y'all said that there were no African slaves. Let's get it straight. We got it real straight as well when we went to Ellis Island and showed the procession of their activities. That we're talking original slaves here, modern Europeans that came over with the British Moors to do fur trapping and just, servitude, right? And a lot of them came from out of the galleys or the jails or whatever. Those are the original slaves. What I find interesting is that during the time when they were asking for their independence from being under that rule, they decided they would pick up and be slave masters themselves. Remember, if you watch that series, it was 6 weeks, Ms. It was called The Book of Negroes. It's an excellent movie. If you haven't, you gotta watch it. Did you watch it, Annie?
Yes, I did, because you told me to. I wasn't going to, but then when you started telling me some of the things that were said, I was like, well, hold on a minute. It seemed like the Negroes really wasn't the copper-tone people.
Exactly, and that movie shows you and proves it to you.
Yes.
I mean, these Europeans that went by the sister, and they said, "Are you a Tory?" Which means a British Moor, right? And she says, "No, I am not." And they said, "Great, because we're not going to be slaves anymore for them." It's right there in the movie. There's a modern Europeans telling you that. So what? And then once they were having, the uproar going down, slave masters or the modern Europeans, as I said, they decided they was going to do slavery too to make finance, and that's when they were going over to the coast of Africa and getting the Africans over there, our brethren over there, with the help of our own brethren to do so. And so they kind of stopped everything they were doing, and for a moment. And I said, wow, this is crazy that they're trying to get their independence from being slaves, and they're going to go right back into wanting to put us into slavery. And when you read Benjamin Banneker's letter, it all pins up. He says, how dare you? Look, I mean, he cursed them out without using curse words in the letter from Benjamin Banneker to Thomas Jefferson, 17, oh my gosh, I used to wear 74, I think, no, not 74, 74, yeah. So he says, how dare you? Didn't you just now say all men are created equal? Didn't you just now come out from bondage, and now you're looking at my brethren with an eye to put them into slavery? And that's exactly what they did. So this is a human travesty, It really is. It definitely is. And so, as you said, what did you bring with you? Nothing. So commerce is what they're doing. The sad part is for us, to think we should indulge in commerce with them. We have no idea what we're saying and what we're doing at
That's
all.
right.
Oh, they're doing commerce, so we're going to, interchange. No, because you're the one that's the merchandise for that very commerce that they're doing, and you want to get involved in it. And then you're like,
That's
oh, really? Let's do this then. Because not only have they never told you what their merchandise is, you're going in trying to deal with them on commerce, and you haven't identified the merchandise either, or the contract.
That's right.
And
That's
if you
right.
think it's a birth certificate, then you're just saying, yeah, that's right. Let's do that. Let's get involved in this. Crazy.
Right. Now, before we go into taking some callers, I just want to in the United Nations Universal Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and Article 13 is what I was referring to. Article 13, Section 1 reads, everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. Now, we can't be residents, and then Section 2 says everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and to return to his country. So there's your right to travel on an international level. And then in the American Constitution, you have a right to travel on a national and international level. Why, you may ask? Because if you were to really look at those people who are hindering your right to travel, you will find that every last one of them are private, foreign corporations on American soil. And the Constitution was written to protect all people, infringement of their unalienable constitutional treaty-secured rights. Now, it's unalienable because meaning and you have to look up the definition of unalienable and inalienable. It means that which cannot be bought, sold, or transferred. So what are they compelling you to do? Buy and or transfer your right to travel under threat of life and liberty. That's a constitutional and a treaty violation. Why is it a treaty violation? Because the American Constitution is a treaty.
Yeah. Crazy.
It is a national and international law because it applies to anyone on American soil, irregardless of if you are Aboriginal, Indigenous, or if you are just passing through.
Right.
So if you ever call us the Justice Department or the FBI or wherever, the CIA, whoever, if you ever call them up and you tell them that you're being harassed, your liberties are being violated, and they ask you, are you a U.S. citizen? That's not supposed to have any bearing on the enforcement of the American Constitution, and they just showed prejudice. So they can't be constitutionally sanctioned either. And by the way, those of you for those of you who've been paying attention, I have been saying that the police are not constitutionally sanctioned. I've been saying this for years, thanks to Sister Jayana, pulling my coattail, on the Interpol website, front page under the United States, it says, based on principles embodied in its Constitution, there is no single national police agency in the United States. Already knew, because if you go through the American Constitution, you will see there is nothing in here. There is nothing in here that speaks of a police. Why? Because if there is, it would make the whole Constitution void, because police, by definition and action, are there to protect corporations, not people. And if you have a so-called sheriff who is selling your stuff, he's not a sheriff. He's a police disguised as a sheriff. Because according to the American Constitution, the sheriff is protecting a corporation. He's impersonating a government official. That's a violation of Title 18, Section 912. Why? Because municipal corporations are not an agency of the state.
Right.
They're not an agency of the state. They are private contractors. So if one of these private contractors comes and sells your stuff under the guise of a sheriff, that's an impersonation of a government official. That's a violation of Title 18, Section 912. So who's
the real impersonators? Who's the real impersonators?
These real impersonators really are the police, because they're alleged to be law enforcement. So what law are you enforcing? Because every single time I have ever gotten a ticket, they always reference a statute. The statute is not a law. The statute is administering a law. What law are we referring to here? These people are so, let me tell you, these people, they're so comfortable in doing what they do that when you approach them and ask simple questions, they will tie themselves into a pretzel to avoid answering. Literally, you ask them, if what you're doing is so right and correct, why can't you answer the question? And they act like they never heard you. If what you are doing is so right and correct and it's constitutionally sanctioned, why can't you answer my question? See, people be like, what, they want to go in there, oh, you don't have jurisdiction, you don't have jurisdiction. My issue is not jurisdiction, because you are alleging you got jurisdiction. So show me the verifiable documentation that proves you got jurisdiction and can violate my constitutionally secured rights, compel me to buy and constitutionally secured rights, all right? Bring it to me. I'm not going to play this game of you ain't got jurisdiction. I want to know. I want to see. I want to see what documentation you got that I'm supposed to be aware of and signed off to, that I'm supposed to be obeying some terms and conditions that was never disclosed to me in exchange for that which cannot be bought, sold, or transferred. Bring it to me. Because for years, since 2008, when I came into this information, people have been running into these ministerial venues, and they've been, oh, you don't have jurisdiction, you don't have jurisdiction, you don't have jurisdiction, you don't. But they still are harassing you. Okay, so I'm done with you ain't got jurisdiction. Sean, I want to see the document, because I already know you don't have jurisdiction. So maybe you have some document that says we entered into some mutual contractual obligations. Bring the document. Because you're a private contractor on American soil, so the only thing we can have is some sort of mutual contract. Where is it? And please don't tell me it's the driver's license, because that don't come from a foreign municipal corporation or on American soil. They are administering for the state, who get to participate in a federal program. Those Department of Motor Vehicles are federal enclaves.
Mhm.
Go in there and ask them. They'll tell you. And their contractors working in the federal building, so they're so pissy mad, they're spilling the beans all over the place. Go to the post office, ask them if they're federal employees. They'll tell you, no, we're contracted and we don't even have a good deal. They are spilling the beans everywhere you go. They are telling you what is going on. The contractors are telling you. Because they're recognizing that this is not a good deal. And for all those police employees out there, you think you're hot shit? You're about to be hot. They are rushing to install the camera on every corner, which, by the way, is unconstitutional. But if they got a police camera on every corner, they don't need a police body.
For what they do. Yeah.
It's not necessary, so they're going to be flashing huge bodies. Huge bodies. So if you think that these corporations are not loyal to anybody, because at the beginning and the end of the day, they are corporations. They are in it to generate income. And no, we ain't going in there talking business. And if there is some business going on, you got to produce a contract, and there's got to be merchandise involved. And you got to be fully aware of it. Can't be a surprise. So we got to look at this thing strategically, and we got to pull, we're going to have to put on our big girl and our big boy drawers and bite the bullet, because these people, they do what they do because they know that many of us, we don't even come in asking the right questions. This ain't just Moorish. This is modern Europeans. I've seen some of your risks. You're asking the wrong questions. You're protected by the Constitution just like everybody else.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Everybody on American soil is protected. Literally everybody. If you read the United Nations Universal Declaration on Human Rights, you will see it mirrors the American Constitution 1791. That means everyone on planet Earth is protected. Everyone. Unless you step away from the protection.
Protected with the ancient principles of civilization.
Exactly. I was floored. I was reading this thing this weekend, and I almost fell off my chair. Because I was like, well, wait a minute, this is the American Constitution. I started writing it down. Look, to Article 5. No one shall be subject to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. That's the 8th Bill of Rights. Article 9, no one shall be subject to arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile. That's the 4th Bill of Rights. This mirrors the American Constitution. Who knew? Who knew? We've been saying it, really. But who knew? Article 1, freedom of religion. Everyone has a right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others, and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, or observance. That's the First Amendment. Everyone has a right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to protect, freedom to protect, hold opinions without interference, and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media, and regardless of frontiers. That's your freedom of speech. Everyone has the right to freedom of peaceful assembly. Is that not the American Constitution and the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights? That is confirmation. All these people running around here for consultation was suspended. You don't know what you're talking about. So, anyway, with that, we're going to open up the line. If you have a question, comment, concern, something you want to put on the table, open up the discussion, press 1 on your telephone dial, and we'll begin to take callers. There was somebody, we had like one person with their hand up, and they kind of disappeared. The number looks familiar, but I don't see him again. So, let's see. Do we have any? What? No, we don't have anyone with their hands up. Oh, my goodness. That must be a lot to digest. All of that wonderful information that was given must be a lot. Oh, here we go. Here's somebody. 352-509. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Amexem.
Islam family. This is Zamiel Bey at Northwest Amexem. Wonderful information, as usual.
More.
As usual. Wow. It's where do we begin? I mean, every week after week after week, is being laid down, and it's necessary. It is so very necessary. Going back to the ancient mind of our foremothers and our forefathers, when we delve into these texts that have been left for us that are rich with scientific information, even though they have been misrepresented as religious dogma. In the beginning was the Word, which is why I have so much respect for what you all do week in and week out, because I realize the importance of the spoken word and how when that word of truth goes out into the atmosphere, the disturbances that it causes for those who are promoting falsehood, because truly this is a divine and national movement. And when I say divine and national, I am referencing spiritual as well as physical. In that spiritual aspect, those of us who are conscious and on a level of knowing know that the body without the spirit is indeed and in fact dead. So we need that spirit. And camelbacking off of that point, I will at this point reference the Holy Quran that was divinely prepared by the Prophet, chapter 41. In verse 9, it reads, "Establish unto thyself principles of action, and see that thou ever act according to them. So shall thy passions have no rule over thee. So shall thy constancy ensure unto thee the good thou possessest, and drive from thy door misfortune. Anxiety and disappointment shall be strangers to thy gates." Mother Roz has mentioned on occasion, Brother Miz has mentioned on occasion, society begins with family, and so does the right to rule or govern. When we establish for ourselves principles beginning at home concerning what this really is, and we establish these principles and begin to live by these principles and make them a part of our life, it changes our energy. And when our energy changes, it changes the aura around us. And when the aura around us changes, it shifts the atmosphere around us. I don't want to sound spooked out or out on cloud nine somewhere, but family, listen to what I am saying, because it is science and the world is well aware of this. We have been artificially reverted to a point of the dark ages where we have become non-cognizant to the sciences that our foremothers and forefathers have laid down. And at this stage in our movement, it is necessary for us to return to that frame of mind so that we can tap in to the divine powers that are readily available to us in much the same fashion that Wi-Fi is on these devices that we use. But here in the Circle 7, it is telling us in chapter 41, when we establish these principles, what happens, how it drives things away. We're talking about energy because all is indeed and in fact energy. Now, I'm not speaking suspect or what I have heard, but what I have experienced from my own life journey this time around. Watching animals. Now, we may call these policy enforcers and these other people who are opposing and oppressing us savages, but family, even animals pick up on energy. And I have witnessed with my own eyes, in much the same way that I heard Mother Anna E. talking about when she was walking in the squirrels. Sitting within the confines of my own space where I domicile, animals, when I would go into meditation, when I would return back from that state of meditation, being surrounded by the animals from the wild, right in the confines of my own space. Not what someone has told me can happen, but what I have seen happen repeatedly and have witnesses that can testify to such, because all is indeed and in fact energy. Going back to chapter 41, further down in this same chapter, and this is a part that really, really, really stood out to me, talking about resolution and being resolved. As Moors, this is where we have to come. Well, not even just Moors, as people in general, when it comes to truth, we have to be resolved in our minds first, because all is mental. And when we get these concepts correct in our minds, and when we are firm in our minds, which only comes through study. Studying is like going to the gym and going to the dojo. It strengthens your mind, which is where this all begins and where it all ends. But here in chapter 41, verse 26, though obstacles appear in his way, he deigneth not to look down upon them. Though heaven and earth oppose his passage, he proceedeth. The mountains sink beneath his tread. The waters of the ocean are dried up under the sole of his foot. The tiger throweth herself across his way in vain. The spots of the leopard glow against him, unregarded. He marcheth through the embattled legions. With his hands he putteth aside the terrors of death. Storms roar against his shoulders, but are not able to shake them. The thunder bursteth over his head in vain. The lightning serveth but to show the glory of his countenance. His name is resolution. He cometh from the utmost part of the earth. He seeth happiness afar off before him. His eye discovereth her temple beyond the limits of the pole. He walketh up to it, he entereth boldly, and he remaineth there forever. Establish thy heart, O man, in that which is right, and then know the greatest of human is to be immutable. We have got to be resolved, family. We have got to be firm in our minds and unshakable in that which has already been written and spoken and laid down by our ancestors, keeping with law. The written document, which we refer to as the Constitution, cannot be altered or changed. It is written. Stick to it, and don't allow anyone or anything to shake you from it. Family, please keep up the good work. In reference, page 1419 in your Black's Law Dictionary, there are lists of maxims there. There's a maxim that says, what is not read is not believed. I second what Mother Anna E. is saying. Whatever they're saying, whatever their claim is, don't waste time going back and forth arguing with them. Tell them to put it in writing. What is not read is not believed. Islam family, keep the light of intelligence burning.
Wow. That's beautiful, brother. Whoa, you just dropped a whole lot of stuff. You know, that chapter 41, I just pulled it up to make sure because I've read it before. That is so interesting because that one is called, you didn't say what it was named or I didn't hear it. It's called inconstancy. That's the title of that chapter. And you were reading stuff, but it was basically in there. It's really telling you take a strategy based on what you know, like you said, based on the principles. Take a strategy, and also when you were saying earlier, brother, where what you're really seeing is the unseen. And we had this conversation. Me, Sister Anna Eden, another sister, we were having a build earlier today, and we were building on how the unseen creates the seen. So that's what's in the mind, that you have to plant that seed in your mind, fertilize it with the word. If you write it down, you sealed it, surely it shall be done. Now, when you say that if whatever they tell them to write it down, that is so right, because like they'll say to you, the so-called magistrate, judge, whatever, he'll say, well, you've got to do so-and-so and so-and-so. You should say, well, is that in order? And if they wouldn't say, oh, yeah, that's in order, well, then you must put it in writing, because it has to be in writing. And what did you say? If it's not written, it's not believed. Beautiful. Your inspiration and their addition to this information tonight is very, very needed and very powerful. Really thank you for what you just added. Peace to you.
And likewise, family. Likewise.
All right, Zamael. All right.
All right.
Right.
Peace and love to you. Thank you so much for that.
Peace, more.
Yeah, that was great. It was wonderful. That's what we're talking about. This is divine.
All right. Next we have caller 386-302. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Amexem.
Peace, everybody. I'm new to the consciousness, or I'm new to the site. I did send in my nationality today, so you guys should get it tomorrow. But I did send it in today. But I'm calling from Palm Coast, Florida.
All right.
And I'm calling because I too, by me just learning everything and some of the things I'm reading and hearing, we do have some issues here where I live. Like we've been having some issues where we're still dealing with people being lynched. You know, some of the, of course, they're not putting it out in the news, but every so often I'll go to like one of the NAACP meetings, and they do mention it in the meetings there. And I have one friend, she works in the hospital, and she told me about an incident where a guy came in and he was lynched. He was burnt to a crisp, and she heard the police. They were whispering about it, you know. But, of course, they knew what was going on. And also, too, we've been having instances where we've been having a lot of children being kidnapped. Like one, I think it was like maybe 3 months ago, we had like 20 kids missing in one day. And, of course, they were all of our Asiatic Moors, you know, children. And then I personally want to talk to you guys about a situation that happened today. I thought it was funny. I'm actually renting where I live and where I'm domiciled. And I came home today, and my daughter, she had told me, she said they had put a code enforcement, a notice of violation on the house. And she said that the guy was out there taking pictures. Actually, what happened was, you know, of course, we got hit by the hurricane, and we had two of the windows that blew out in the house. So, of course, the owner, she knows about it, you know, because, you know, of course, we had reported to her for, you know, because it was her house and she didn't do whatever with the insurance. But she's basically just been taking her time to fix the windows. So, of course, that's why the shutters are there. So they put the notice of violation on the house today because of the shutters.
said they put what on the house?
They put a notice of violation on the house. It's a code enforcement because we have a shutter on one of the front windows.
And they want her to fix it or something like that, or remove it or something.
Yeah, they want us to remove it, but I mean it's not our fault. We got hit by the hurricane. We reported it to the the owner that we're renting the house from, and that's just her. She just decided to, I don't know, for whatever reason, she's taking her time with fixing the window.
Well, I mean, she's probably under that jurisdiction with the house. Did you tell her that if that happened today? I mean, that's specific.
Yes,
they're coming after her for that, being the owner. Did you tell her? Maybe she, I don't know whether.
Yeah, I did. When I found out, she hasn't called me back or anything. I texted her and told her what happened. I also sent her a copy of it, so she knows. But I haven't heard anything from her. But I was wondering too, because even though that I am renting, is there something I can do as well on my part?
Well, I mean, for me, I don't know how difficult it is to take a shutter off of a window, just to get.
Well, the window is broken. It's broken.
Oh, it's broken.
So we have no other choice but to leave it on. The window blew out during when we had a hurricane here in our area.
Oh, I see. Well, let me ask you something. Couldn't you just call her up and say, listen, I'm going to have somebody replace the window and, send you the bill or take it off of rent or something? I mean, that's how you negotiate things like that.
The lady that, it's funny, she's a Moor, that we're renting from, but I don't know, she's so picky, whenever there's something that needs to be done to the house, she doesn't want us to just try and fix it and send her the bill. She's like,
so then here's what you do. You say, listen, we got to do something about this window. They're coming over here talking about putting code violations here. And we can't remove the shutter. I got my babies in here, myself. We need to be, sheltered from the weather. Like, what's up? So this is between you and her. This is between you and her, not you and the code people. This is between you and her.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because you don't want to, what are you going to go to the code people and tell them, hey, look, she's acting right?
You want to do something because they're saying here that they're empowered to impose fines at the rate of up to $5,000 for each day.
Did she know that?
Like I said, I sent her a copy of it and I emailed her, because she didn't answer her phone. So I texted her, also emailed her, and I sent her a copy of the violation.
Well, here's what I would do if I was you, because you'll be saving her and you. You need to have shelter from the elements, and just say to her, look, we got to get this thing fixed. You want me to take care of it and get her agreement, even though you say she doesn't like that. You can't stay there like that either. So you say, look,
I think it was a good thing that happened because it's not like she didn't get the money from the insurance. She has the money from the insurance. They've already paid her. Her thing is, she doesn't like to have professional people to come over and do it. She'll try and have her husband come and do it. And he's out of
Well, I mean, putting in the window is not that difficult. I know that most of our people we were talking about this earlier too, don't know how to do anything. They don't even know how to change a light bulb these days or use a screwdriver and stuff like that. But, you can find somebody that can put it in too. Tell her, look, either you'll find someone that will agree to be paid, whatever like that, or she can find one, but somebody got to do something because you got to protect yourself and your family. And, like, if she doesn't have the time, you'll do it. And just get her agreement that she'll pay it. That's it. I mean, it is between you and her at this point, not you and the code enforcement, because they'll just find another reason to fine her. You know what I'm saying? So that's what you can do, maybe to help her. Maybe she does. Maybe she is picky, but maybe under these circumstances, we ain't got time for that. You know, like this might be your lesson to learn not to be so picky, because you are picky too about about protecting yourself from the elements. So I would keep it between you and her, as opposed, and you stay on her about fixing what needs to be done, or allowing you to find the person or persons, whatever, to take care of it, and keep it between you and her. Don't give it back to them, because they're looking for more reasons to harm her. And then if they find her, that's all bull, then, they could fine her, which is really taxing her right out of the property. So you don't want that to happen. So you need to say get
yeah.
All right?
Still have okay.
And as far as those hangings and lynchings and stuff, like wow, that's a whole nother thing. But nothing has been actually written up or reported, not even in a small newspaper in your area regarding those things.
No, they definitely keep it out. I mean, like I said, I can talk to the people at the NAACP. I don't know how they're finding it out, but I know the NAACP knows about it. When I go to the meetings, and, they have a section where they do the report, and they'll basically tell you, like, some of the things that are happening in the, in the city, and they report it. They
need to get a newspaper too, because that's why Prophet Noah Ali said that we would need newspapers our own, because naturally those people who are doing the lynching ain't gonna tell people. They might have a little newsletter of their own in their little private meetings, and they might be reporting just what they did privately. But so even with NAACP, they should have a newsletter. Somebody needs to be talking about that for real.
Yeah, I know. NAACP here is really weak, and
they're all weak. You have to understand the history of who they are and how they became established, even though they made. And it's a sin when people who are involved in any organization, association, etc., club, whatever, don't know the history of that in which they're involved in. However, the story where that is concerned, we have in a book called Tribute to the True Inventors of the American Culture, and I wrote that book, and I did the research, and the NAACP used to be, initially, they were the Niagara movement, and in 1909 they were, Niagara, like Niagara Falls. Mm-hmm. That's what that organization started with. E.B. Du Bois was a part of that originally. Okay. Well, actually, what happened is there was a small, what they call race riot in 1909, and that's a very important date, because you could go to any of these NAACPs, they're going to tell you they started up in 1909, because what happened is after the race riot, then a group of so-called Jews or Europeans, they started it back up again. And if you go to that NAACP meeting and you ask them for their charter, you will see in all of them they're not allowed to own any property. So when they came back up, as the NAACP, and their charter says they can't own any property, right? So how is that going to help the economic position at all regarding, these so-called Negroes or whatever, as they say that in that? Yes. 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 Yes.
Because they're the building that they have the meetings in, they don't own it. I was always wondering why they never had their own meeting.
No NAACP in the entire nation across the land, if you are a part of that none of them can own the land. It's right in the charter. So now we become members of these associations without knowing the history of it.
Yeah, and
without reading, right. So that's why they're literally effective.
I said no. Yeah, I just go to the meetings every now and then, just trying to keep what's going on. Yeah, I mean, I just go because I like to try. When I live in a community, I like to know something about that community. I mean, when we moved here, I went to the Chamber of Commerce. I went to the school meetings because I wanted to get a really good feel of where I'm living at and what's going on. So,
right. Well, none of them. They all in the letterhead will say established 1909 because that's when they came back up again and they were infiltrated, and it's just the front. That's why they can't really get nothing done. And, I mean, you know, they like to dress up and have these affairs and stuff, but the real essence and guts of them, they can't own property. Just read the charter. They're ineffective to the cause, for real. So we call it the National Association for Chocolate-Covered Peanuts.
Oh, wow.
Well, I said colored people. But the colored people can't own all that. So
we're not colored people, though.
I know.
We're not the colored people, and we were not the ones that were being transported from the south to the north by what was Harriet Tubman's Aboriginal Indigenous man, Appalachian? Because it wasn't Harriet Tubman.
Oh, no, it was Rosmira, something like mine. I forgot. Ross something Bay. That's who she really is. Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
Araminta Ross Bay.
Oh, Araminta.
Araminta Ross Bay, right? I know it's Araminta. Yeah, Araminta.
And Araminta Ross Bay. That is who Harriet Tubman really is. How about that?
Oh, wow. She wasn't transporting us. We were already here. She was transporting my Europeans.
Yep.
Right.
She sure does.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
They're the slaves.
Really? Oh,
it was never us.
Now we know why we need our own. Now we know why we need our own schools.
And we met her. I think is it her granddaughter or great granddaughter? She lives here in the city. I met her. I think it's either the granddaughter or great granddaughter lives here in the city, and she told us that the family still has the house, and she said the city of course is trying to take the house from them, but they make sure that some family members living in the house.
Right.
Oh, wow.
That it is possessed, is in possession of it. Maintaining possession.
Yes, and she told us that the Underground Railroad is closed off in there, but also, too, that it was leading to other houses. So she said there's a spot in the kitchen, and, they actually put like a plaque over that little spot, and you can still open that little door and go through it. And you can, I don't know if she said it was 3 or 4 miles long in there, but it was leading to other houses. But, of course, they sealed it off.
Wow. Wonderful.
Yeah, because like my daughter's in film, and she was talking to my daughter about actually letting her go over and doing a little documentary on it. So, but yeah, she lives in our city though. Oh, and my daughter, she wanted to ask you some questions too.
She may not even know her own family history.
Yeah, she probably knows.
Yeah. Of Adamina Rocky Day. That's what it is. I just sent it to you, right?
Yeah. Oh, you have it? Because I had a snapshot of the page of the book that said it, but I don't know what the book is. So, you must have that same snapshot because it was written. Remember what the brother just said? If it's not written, it's not believable. We actually saw it in the book. Someone sent it to us, but I don't know what the book is, and those would be considered rare books to find. Okay, so even if her children didn't, or great grandchildren didn't know, once you see it printed in a book with her and what her actual appellation was, then I guess it would be believable.
Oh, wow.
And it goes right back to how important identity is in the halls of history and how it applies today. Because, under the color of law, because specifically when you're talking about, like, cities trying to claim, houses, when the Aboriginals have the right to claim the land, and then you got Romans that are assuming positions of power as if they're American and that they have authority on American soil, you got to really know, why nationality is important with so many ramifications, like on national, international levels. And like you said, we know that they are, who they are, but still in all, we are who we are. And it's like, they don't really have territorial jurisdiction. That is a fact. I'm not saying they don't do what they do, but that is a strong argument. That's a strong argument.
And it's a very strong argument. But you know what? If you don't do the historical research of those municipal corporations, you'll never comprehend why they can never have territorial jurisdiction. And also, and I was, because I was talking earlier today, I believe with Jayana, I think it is, it would be most informative to the P charter for all of these municipal corporations, or just a couple, because they're all pretty much the same, all right? They're all pretty much the same, but if you get a charter, the charter for one of the municipal corporations that you're near, and you look at the territorial sales boundary, because that's what it is. Either sales territory, and you never, people just don't connect the dots. They say, oh, I'm near the territory of so-and-so. Well, I've been in sales in my life, so I know when I hear the word territory, I know you're talking sales territory, right? Now, sales territory is not relative to geographical landmass. Sales territory is relative to fictitious marking. And when you go and you look at all of these, charters, their sales territory is marked by, like, for example, they'll say, go west to State Street and then go north to, and they might reference a river, go down, and this is how they talk. The challenge today is most of those, if not all of those marks, no longer exist. They don't even exist, so they really don't even have a sales territory anymore to speak of in terms of a sale. What they have is this fictitious border marking on, and it's imaginary. For example, if you're traveling, they will say something like, everybody has seen it. You just haven't registered it. If you're traveling on the land, you may pass a sign that says the name of the municipal corporation, and then right underneath it says the date they were incorporated, or the date they were founded, or the date they were established. It's right there. They're not even trying to hide these things from the people. They're not. They're right in your face with it. It says incorporated, and then it gives you travel on the land. Like, for example, if you travel from Florida, it's like, I remember when we were traveling to Florida, it was the most annoying thing. Every so mile, you had this billboard sign that said 20 miles to the south of the border, or 40 miles to the south of the border, and it was most annoying. But what they was trying to tell you is that you were getting close to a fictitious sales territory that no longer exists. They don't even have to update those fictitious markings in the charter anymore because everybody thinks that they are leaving or coming into a sales territory of a union state or a municipal corporation. And not to throw any stones, but sister, when you opened up, you said that you are from a municipal corporation within the jurisdiction of a union state. Both of those things are corporations, so you could never be from there. But these are the necessary information that we need, because as long as we're saying that we're from a municipal corporation, it's like saying I come from Walmart, or I come from Macy's, or I come from Neiman Marcus, or I'm from Verizon. You now just giving them and if you're from my corporation, then I can tell you what you can and cannot do.
Wow.
It's just that simple.
That's beautiful. It is. And that goes right back to the beginning of this broadcast when you were saying these people are dealing with penal colonies. And again, if we keep saying, oh, yeah, we're from there, they're like, okay, then this applies to you. And again, that's what jurisdiction is about. So then the understanding has to be what you're explaining is a national domicile, which would be all of the continent, not subdivisions of it, fictitiously or otherwise, sales territory or otherwise, because quasi-national domiciles are what every state is, because they're not really a place anyway, but they're quasi-national, so you can't say you're a national and then say that you are from or live in a quasi-national or fictitious domicile, period. You have to say that your national domicile is the North America itself. Right? It's always care of with mailing and so on like that. Now, I want to say this. If you know, go ahead. I just wanted to.
No, go ahead. I didn't say anything.
I wanted to tell the sister, if you know relatives of Araminta Bay, known as Harriet Tubman, which happened after remember, we lost the titles, in 1774, as they said, or around there. If you know her family, tell them the one thing they need to be sure to do is remain in possession of their ancestral estate. Possession is the key word. Don't listen to anything they say. Don't let no code enforcement even come there, because they're under the municipality. They have nothing to do with this ancestral estate. They already know it's a historical landmark for that reason as well, and the family needs to keep it that way. Any maintenance and things that need to be done, the family needs to make sure it is done, and they don't need to listen to a daggone thing that these penal colonies have to say in regards to the ancestral estate. They have no nickel in that dime. Don't listen to anything they say. Don't let them convince you to abandon that location and leave it in any way for any reason. Don't let them come in and give you nothing about. I don't care if a hurricane came through, and I know that's what happened in your place, but I'm talking about their place. Fix it themselves and leave them out of that business, because they will end up taking that, and they will end up making it a museum, and they will end up making finance off it, and none of the families will have anything to do with it because they abandoned it in the first place. They must remain.
She said that's what they're doing, because she said when she died, she told them under no circumstances.
That's right, because we cannot sell our property. That's the whole point. That's what got other people all confused, is this commercial, buy and sell and money stuff. The values in the land. The values in the land, period. So it can't be sold because it's an ancestral estate, and, it can't be bought, sold, or transferred. Tell them to please understand that. It can't be.
Oh, wow. I definitely will. I will encourage her again and tell her that. And my daughter had a question for you, too.
All right.
Peace, family.
She
Hi, everyone.
All right.
Peace.
My name is Amira, and I've been basically writing stories, and I went to school for film. And my question mainly has been, all of the stories that I've been writing ever since I was a little kid has always had something to do with kingdoms, claiming your heritage. So I kind of find, like, for me, everything's coming full circle now that we've been coming into the knowledge of who we really are and, you know, just our estate. I kind of feel like everything's finally coming full circle. So my question is more so, especially now that I'm beginning to study history, and I'm actually realizing how many events, and I really just think it was just designed by the ancestors, that I was already writing about things that I did not know were actually historical. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out now is, first of all, as a filmmaker, I want to begin to make some type of content to where I can put this information out there, especially for my peers and, you know, my other friends that I've begun to tell them about the knowledge, and I kind of want to connect the dots for them. But as far as with film goes and then publication, a lot of that deals with copyright, you know, trademarking. And my question has been, I have been trained in the industry, so I understand, you know, as far as for the entertainment industry-wise, on things that they're telling us to do. But now I understand with this being, these practices are actually a part of this quasi-government, how do we, or how should I go about copyright protection? You know, and what sort of things should I do before releasing this work out here for the public to look at?
I know someone who's an expert in copyright and in entertainment, and possibly we can connect you what you need to do, and your mom, because I want to send something to your mom that she can send to Harriet, known as Harriet Tubman's family. That will help them understand their position. If you send the email to MHHS-Eyes Wide Open at gmail.com with your and just say that you ask these questions, then we can get back to you with that, and then I can also send what I wanted to send for her to give to Harriet Tubman's family. All right. What is your appellation? She didn't say who you were.
Khalifa.
Amira. Did you say Amira? You said, or
my daughter is Amira, and my name is Khalifa.
Oh, Khalifa and Amira. All right. That sounds wonderful, mother and daughter. Yeah, do that, and we can get back to you with some information. And especially your daughter. I don't know how old she is, but I don't think she's over 30, or she's 20-something, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. She's from that generation, and she's already admitted that it's already been in her to do this. So she studied now she's getting into the history, and she also mentioned heritage. So you got to get into the heritage and the history, and you know, with the film and all that. That's what's up. That's what's up. Our media.
Yeah.
So we definitely want. Yeah, I know Miz is like, yeah, all right.
I don't want to be disrespectful, but I definitely would like to be able to get in contact with the sister Amira, who's into the film and things of that nature. Because, again, you know, intellectual property, that's protected too. But definitely, because, you know, it's needed. We definitely need more media outlets, for sure.
She was actually groomed for that from ever since she was little. I mean, we actually were coming from a Christian background, and you know, God just started dealing with us and telling us that what we were in was wrong. You know, He was like, you know, this is not me, and I heard it, but I had my concerns, but I really didn't understand it. And God was literally telling me to go to the laws, start studying the laws and studying history. And when I did, I was like, oh my gosh, and I had announced it to my family. You know, I was like, we need to get out of this Christianity. We need to stop going to church. I said, this is truly wrong. And my family, they looked at me. They was like, oh, you're crazy. You're really crazy.
Right.
I call me whatever you want, but I say, here is the information. And I said, all I'm asking you is to take the information and study it. And they did, and they came to the conclusion that, wow, you're right. We need to get out of it.
Right. So tell you, right, that's right. You know, it's all divine. And to Amir, go to Mantis Views 29. That's a YouTube channel, and you'll see some of the works that Brother Miz here has done with video.
We're looking at it
in September, end of September. So you know, I'm and as it's going, I'm growing with ideas. So that's why I definitely would like to stay in tune with you, because you said you was doing the film. Exactly. So
yes. So just email us and we'll get back to you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh yes, you're welcome.
All right then.
Right.
All righty. Thank you so much for that wonderful information, and thank you so much for building with us.
Yeah. The only thing that's not so wonderful is you're talking about they still lynching and burning people, man.
Oh yeah, that's a good build. I mean, we need to know about stuff like that. And you know what? It's interesting. I mean, I'm not surprised that these things are happening, because I think a couple of maybe a year or so ago, they actually reported that there was lynching going on. Remember? And then they started. A lot of the modern Europeans took it as a joke, and they were leaving ropes tied around trees. Remember? I don't remember exactly where that was happening, but I remember hearing about that. And it was around that time they literally did find somebody who had been hung from a tree. I just can't remember where that took place. But
tree dragged behind a
things that are happening is, you know, it's not there's nothing new under the sun. Nothing new is being done. Everything that's being done has already, you know, it's always been done. Just because, look, we have to recognize that these media outlets, these modern European media outlets, they are run by the municipal corporation. And so they're only going to tell you what they want you to know. And an excellent movie that shows you that is my favorite, V for Vendetta. They literally tell you that the so-called news reporters will only say what they've been told to say. So they're not reporting the news. And so today you have a vast majority of people who watch this media output like they are getting the news, like they're being up to date and informed. And it just goes to show you how deep the mental conditioning is. Because I'm telling you, a lot of times you will say to them, well, you know that that information is not true. How addicted people are. They will tell you, oh, I know that's all a bunch of bullcrap, but they watch it every day, every second of the day. They got the TV on CNN, ESPN, NBC, ABC, just watching this so-called media propaganda, I mean, every second of the day. And then you wonder why you can't break out of this mental enslavement, because you're reinforcing it.
Well, the only piece of some sort of truth you might get is early in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning news. They might say some things that you're never going to hear during the regular masses. When the masses are watching TV, you'll get some idiom of truth at that time and that time only.
I believe that if you're going to get any piece of information, and I know this has been my experience, I've never gotten it from these media outlets. I have gotten some interesting information between 3 and 6 o'clock in the morning from the Discovery Channel. The History Channel used to be really good. I don't know what it is now. So, if you didn't record it.
Animal Kingdom. Right, Liz?
What?
Animal Kingdom. I got stuck on the Animal Kingdom the other day. I'm just going to say this and we'll move on. I'm going to be talking about this because it was like a revelation for me to really understand the lion, the king of the jungle. But, yeah, man, that was the most, that I was stuck on that. I don't know. And then I got the lesson of what, huh?
Yeah, I love that type of stuff right there, 'cause I'm not even, and I don't mean no disrespect. Shout out to everybody who teaches everything like that. But sometimes you get to different degrees where not even that you're on different degrees, it's fundamental. But, I could learn a lot more watching the Animal Planet than listening to some so-called teachers.
Well, definitely. Yeah.
Without the animals even saying the word, observing how they move, I appreciate the narratives that be on things like that. But it's so many lessons embedded in nature. All you have to really do is observe with your eyes, your brain, your just it's fundamental. And that's why I even use the motif of a mantis, where mantis use 29, because it's a lot of lessons embedded in nature. So, if you can learn from that, you can remove a lot of, social ills in a certain aspect, because now you're dealing with the law of nature, and the law of nature is superior to any other law, because it's the most ancient thing, natural existence itself. So studying the law of nature, using lessons from nature to help better your mentality. I mean, for me, I love it.
But those lessons from nature are extreme, because like you said earlier, the certain whatever, I forgot what animal you use, they only deal with what's in their world, their environment. But it's a lesson for you, men, in mind, whatever it is that they do. And so I will say this, but I'm going to talk about this on another show, maybe even on the Sisters show, because the lion, I got it, man. He's a merciless being, violent, arrogant, all of that. But the reason why he gets treated the way he gets treated and gets the food first and all that, this is a hell of a lesson for all of us, especially for the protectors of the family, which are usually the sons. The reason he gets that is for one reason and one reason only, because he in fact protects the mother and the pride, which is the children. That's what he does. And I know you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, he comes in, if he goes away and he comes back and he's got sons there, he'll eat them. He only wants to, he'll kill them. He only wants to be the only male. Well, we can get into that too. But his purpose, and the reason he's a king of the damn jungle, is because his duty is to protect the family. That's all he got to do. That's why he is so merciless. That lesson is the same with all of us and our sons and fathers and husbands, etc. That's the duty, to protect. And then you'll get the big piece, as Dave always says, that's why you get the big piece of chicken at the table. But we don't eat flesh. But I'm just saying, it is a heck of a lesson to really look at how lions live and what's up with that. That's all. Islam.
All right.
Wait a minute. Wait. One last thing. This is important. Most people say that lions will kill other males, that, even his own children, right, own sons. However, there's another interesting thing for the brotherhood, all right? You will only see a lion with another lion if and only if it is his brother. How about that? Islam. I mean, from the same brother.
All right. Now our next caller is Sim. Is that you?
Oh my goodness! I thought about him today. Is that him?
Yes, it is. Islam.
How you doing?
All is well.
What's going on?
A lot's going on. A lot been going on. I want to say I am Asim Bay, northwest of Amexem, and a lot has been going on.
You're breaking up. Can you go to a better area? You're breaking up a little bit.
How about now?
All right.
That's better?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, great. I wanted to start with two things. One is letting you know that even at the age I am now, I hit the degree of understanding silence, and that's been a powerful thing for me. You know.
Okay, you're breaking up again.
Let me move to another area.
Yes, please. We want to hear from you, brother.
I'm hoping this is better. Is this
Keep
better?
talking.
Yes. I hit that degree of. My wife said I might have to step out here for a minute. Is that better? All right, I'm going to keep talking. I hit that understanding silence, and it's been very good for me because it's been very powerful. And secondly, I want to thank you, Mother Annie, you, Mother Roz, Ms. Raheem, and Cujo. Something Ms. Raheem said to me 4 years ago. We was having a conversation on the call, and we was talking about Europeans. And at that time, I've been conscious maybe for a year prior to that. And at that time, I was thinking European. I was still caught up in that color code thing and try to differentiate what was a European, Britain, and stuff. And I come from a background of Islam, and I was using the word ak or aki, which meant brother. And Ms. said to me that these Britons were your cousins. Hold on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He said the Britons were your cousins. Now, when I heard that from him, at that time, I took it in and I was trying to figure out what is he saying. And through this degree of knowledge and study working on that color thing, I realized that, that when we talk about these Europeans, we have to understand the time period now. But when we talk about these Europeans, they look just like us. The redcoats are coming. These guys look just like us. All right? And because, growing up, you see them as painted pale skin. You see them in all the movies, pale skin. You see these Indians in the movie, these people in these movies calling themselves Indians, pretty much pale skin. And so I had to wrap my mind around what these people looked like, and I had to go back in history and understand that period of time when we talk about a whole lot of things when it wasn't even no European walking the planet. When we read some of these ancient books and these wars that was going on and things. So, I want to leave that there for a minute. And I just wanted to thank y'all for that. All right. And the work that y'all did
And you know what you're saying, that is the reason why we say modern Europeans. You get that now, right?
Can you hear me?
No, we can hardly hear you at all now.
Yeah, hardly.
You're like distant.
Right. How about now?
All right, that's better. But I wanted to say that's why we call them modern Europeans. You understand that now, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Because when I started delving in that study, like you was, and he was talking about these imaginary borders, when you get into the 15, or let's say the 16th centuries had been introduced to men as love made manifest, and must now begin his divine ministry. And he went forth into the wilderness to be alone with the law, that he might look into his inner heart and know its strength and worthiness. And himself he taught. He said, my lower self is strong. By many ties I am bound down to the cardinal self. Have I the strength to overcome and give my life a willing sacrifice for men? Now, a couple of weeks, a whole lot was going on there with the family, and I seen some of the videos and stuff like that. And it reminded me of the work that you guys have been doing on the highways and byways to get this word out to the family, where you're making a life sacrifice worthy of any money if you was even thought to be making money. The time and the sacrifice that you guys put in to accept this mission. I appreciate and love you for that.
Thank you.
All right. So he asked himself, have I the strength to overcome and give my life to a willing sacrifice for men? Then I shall stand before the face of men, and they demand a proof of my messiahship. What will I say? And then the temper, remember, he was tempted by 3 temps. The temper came and said, if you be the Son of Allah, command these stones to turn to bread. And Jesus said, who is it that demands a test? It is no sign that one is the Son of Allah because he does miracles. The devil can do mighty things. And this is for a lot of people that's out there doing mighty things.
Yes. Yes.
I walking and living this thing out on the highways and byways every week, week in and week out.
Yep.
You know? And when the temple said, if you will go into Jerusalem, and from the temple pinnacle, cast down yourself to earth, the people will believe that you are the Messiah sent from Allah. This you can surely do, for did not David say, he gives the angels charge concerning you, and with their will they uphold, lest you should fall. And Jesus said, I may not tempt the Lord, my God Allah. And when the temple said, look forth upon the world, behold, its honors and its fame, before its pleasures and its wealth. And if you will give your life for these, they shall be yours. But Jesus said, always away from me, all tinkering thoughts. My heart is fixed. I sprung this cardinal life with all its vain ambitions and its pride. For 40 days did Jesus wrestle with his cardinal self, that lower self, all right? For 40 days he wrestled with his cardinal self. His higher self prevailed. He then was hungry, but his friends had found him and ministered to him. Then Jesus left the wilderness, and in the consciousness of holy breath, he came to the camp of John and taught. The consciousness of the holy breath. And so,
wow. Thank you, brother. You know what? Divine law governs all events. I'll tell you, you went across my mind today. I was like, what? You know, I was just wondering how you were doing. I was like, yes, we called and compelled that. Yeah.
Oh, we just living the life being who we are. We done had, as well as my sons, my daughters. We just living the life. They had a home birth. We witnessed the birth of when everybody was telling my son and his mate not to have a baby at home and this and that. And they had a home birth. They wanted to just live this here thing out. And had the courage, like the brother before the last caller was talking about resolve. Had the courage. And I want to say to people, nationality is the order of the day, and understand and know that we have a divine prophet that came to us in the boroughs of North America to stand with, that we must rest with our prophet and understand what he brought us in bringing us our nationality and birthright. Because all that we're talking about and we do comes with nationality once you understand that thing.
That's right. Yep, that's right. God, I'm glad you said that today. Yes, thank you. We'll be getting in touch with you now that you've broken your silence and your meditation, and we'll build that more. All right? We're going to call you up.
All right.
All right. Peace and love. Give peace to the family.
Yes, I will.
Yeah. We have one more caller. This is the last caller. We got like 2 minutes. Caller 972-839. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Amexem. Islam, caller 972-839. Islam.
Wow. That's Islam. How y'all doing tonight? Happy morning. Go more to get there.
We got less than a minute.
Waking up. Yeah, what they shaking up here. They said law, the interpretation of law, and the principles of unity. It is a great day. All the calls, everything that they have said is right on time. Because we in this, as they say, the new year, but it is the year of the more because everything that, first of all, excuse me, I'm Abdul Malik Shakur Bey, Northwestern Mason from the Texas Territory, Islam family, Islam to the listener. We are the more. Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, that's what I want to hear, some response. Because you know what? I talk to myself. It's just me. Because it's all about Allah and Prophet Noju Ali. We got to learn the true history. And we got to know because, we were raised in there's a lot of hush mouths and those who knew and they sold themselves out and go into the occupation.
Joseph Kanaday Ill, Kush Amir Bunch Ill, Emmanuel Billings Bay, Yassin Khalik Alamin Ill, Michael Curry Bay, all under the purview of North Carolina. Noble Crisco Ill under the purview of New Jersey, Messiah Aziz Ill and Crystal Ill, both kidnapped through a joint venture between Mercer Corporation, Freehold Corporation, and Trenton Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. We're still waiting on an update regarding baby Patricia Bay, kidnapped by Atlantic Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. Eldridge Terran Fisher Ill, Marquis Sevion Ill under the purview of Indiana. Solomon Il Bey and Mumi Abu Bey under the purview of Texas, William Barrett Ill under the purview of Virginia, Bomani Abidwil Ill, kidnapped by Chesapeake Corporation under the purview of Virginia, Che Ray Bey under the purview of West Virginia, Thomas Lee Bey under the purview of California, Victor Eduardo Aguaye Juarez Ill, kidnapped by Harlem Corporation under the purview of Georgia, Natro Tahuti Ill, kidnapped by Benner Corporation under the purview of Pennsylvania, Rennie Bay, kidnapped by Hamilton Corporation under the purview of, Hamilton, Ontario Corporation under the purview, well, actually, it's Hamilton Corporation. The state would be Ontario, and that's that would be a union state, and it's on American soil that is referenced as Canada. And last but not least, Brian George Mills Bay, kidnapped by the employees working through Glades Corporation under the purview of Florida. Thank you very much.
All right. Oh, my goodness. Ah. Boy, I tell you, Mercury must be doing his thing, because I'm having all kinds of technical difficulties. Oh, my God. Oh, my gosh. Let's see. Let me get my bearings. Islam, and welcome to MHHS-Eyes Wide Open. This is your host, Anita Ill, along with my co-host, Ms. Raim Aleph Ill.
Peace on the E. Peace and love, Moorish. Ma. Enjoy everybody. Yeah, Mercury retrograde. I've been feeling that too.
Oh, my God. Okay, then we have Ryan Bay.
Well, Islam, peace and love to everyone, and to Mercury as he does his stuff, because it shall unravel, or it shall go direct on January the 8th, which is the Prophet's early return. So all the stuff going on now, what you're saying and everything like that, it's all going to get straightened out real soon.
I look, let me tell you, today's the 3rd. It can't come fast enough, because let me tell you, I'm going to be with us tonight. He is listening, but he has some other obligations. He may be compelled to chime in or not, but he has some other obligations, but he is listening. All right, so in conjunction with the Final Call series, this broadcast is entitled From Penal, that's Penal, to Penance. On many occasions, we are told that we must adhere to, quote, the law, end quote. The missing word before the word the law used to be penal, as in penal law. How many of us have looked up the word penal, its etymology, where it originated, and who it was to apply to? Join us today as we investigate further constitutional violations of the people by the imposed alleged, quote, penal law, end quote, penal code, and let's not forget the penitentiary/penal colony people are sent to in order to work off the alleged penances. So, you know what? I sent this out, and I put it all together, and I forgot to put the page number. So let me see if I can. It's from page 1289 out of the Black Law 4th Edition Dictionary. I'm going to read to you the definition of penal. And then there's some other definitions all the way to penance, because I think it is very pertinent for us to understand what this word means, what it entails, and how they're using this on American soil. Very interesting. All right, so the definition of penal, now remember this is out of the Black Book, 4th edition dictionary, page 1289. Penal, punishable, inflicting a punishment, containing a penalty or relating to a penalty. Then we have action upon a penal statute, an action for the recovery of a penalty given by statute, an action which enforces a forfeiture or penalty for transgressing the law. The term penal is broader than criminal and relates to actions which are not necessarily criminal as well. The term penalty, in its broad sense, is a generic term which includes fines as well as other kinds of punishment, but in its narrowest sense is the amount recovered for violation of the statute, law, a municipal ordinance, which violation may or may not be a crime, and the term applies mostly to a pecuniary punishment. The word forfeiture is frequently used in civil as well as criminal law, and it is also used in actions for a penalty, although the action is a civil one. Distinguished from a popular or kitam action, in which the action is brought by the informer, to whom part of the penalty goes. Information is brought by an officer, and the penalty goes to the chief. But in American law, the term includes actions brought by informers or other private persons, as well as those instituted by government or public officers. In a broad sense, the term has been made to include all actions in which there may be a recovery of exemplary or vindictive damages as suits for libel and slander, or in which special, double, or triple damages are given by statute, such as actions to recover money paid, usury, or lost in gaming. But in a more particular sense, it means one, an action on a statute which gives a certain penalty to be recovered by any person who will sue for it, or two, an action in which the judgment against the defendant is in the nature of a fine or is intended as a punishment. Actions in which the recovery is to be compensatory in its purpose and effect, not being penal actions, but civil suits, though they may carry special damages by statute. We have the word penal bill, an instrument formerly in use by which a party bound himself to pay a certain sum or sums of money, or to do certain acts, or, in default thereof, to pay a certain specified sum by way of penalty, then termed a penal sum. These instruments have been superseded by the use of a bond in a penal sum with conditions. Then we have the word penal bond, a promise to pay a named sum of money, the penalty, with a condition underwritten that if a stipulated collateral thing other than the payment of money be done or forborne, the obligation shall be borne. Then we have penal clause, a secondary obligation entered into for purpose of enforcing performance of a primary obligation, and nature of penalty is by way of compensation for damages and not as punishment for failure to perform, violation of the preceding clause. Then we have penal law. Those which prohibit an act or impose a penalty for the commission of it. Strictly and properly speaking, a penal law is one imposing a penalty or punishment, and properly a pecuniary fine or mulct for some offense of a public nature or wrong committed against the state. Strictly speaking, statutes giving a private action against a wrongdoer are not penal in their nature, neither the liability imposed nor the remedy given being penal. If the wrong done is to the individual, the law giving him a right of action is remedial rather than penal.
The following is a list of Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held for a demand of income. The demand of income is being made against the family as well as through fraudulent submissions of documents alleging that they are caring for the people in some sort of long-term care fashion. These Moors have been kidnapped literally off the street by employees of various corporations that are guised as counties, cities, towns, township, boroughs. These names that we have all been mentally conditioned to believe are government are not. They are exactly what they say they are. They are municipal corporations, and as such, they, if you do the research, you will find that they are foreign corporations on American soil. Therefore, they do not have standing nor jurisdiction to make a demand of income or even bring a claim against the Aboriginal indigenous people or any people on American soil, this making their actions criminal. However, as Moors, we must bring these crimes to the forefront via civil complaints against these unalienable constitutional treaty-secured rights of the people, Aboriginal indigenous Moors of this land. If the municipal corporation has been provided, then we reference that along with the union state. If we don't have the municipal corporation where the employee works that actually did the kidnapping, then we just reference the union state that is bound and obligated to protect the people from foreign and domestic invasion. This list comprises Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held hostage by employees of various corporations on American soil, which is a violation of the American Constitution 1791, and it is a treaty violation, being that we are talking about Moorish Americans, Aboriginal indigenous to this land, who have been kidnapped by employees of foreign corporation on American soil. This making this an international issue because you have two nations with one nation warring against another. Therefore, this is an international issue. If you have a family member near or far within your immediate family or one of the family that you know and you would like them added to this list, please send an email to MHHS-Eyes-Wide-Open@gmail.com. In the subject line, put Kidnap Moor, and please provide us with their free national appellation, the municipal corporation that the employee is operating through that kidnapped them, along with the union state that this corporation is in purview to. So with that, we start out with our sister Abkare Bay, kidnapped through a joint venture between Memphis Corporation and Shelby Corporation under the purview of Tennessee, Dawood under the purview of Arkansas, Amir Muslimin Kusu Ra Kushbe under the purview of Missouri, Asar Patah Amin Wabe under the purview of Ohio, Jeremy Paler Terry Thorne Bay, J. McCall Brooks.
I was on the verge of sending you a text to tell you you're gonna have to take over and go into the studio because my computer locked up. I had to reboot it, and then I got into the studio, and then I was trying to print what we were going to talk about, and the printers went down.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
Oh my God! My computer went down again after I got in, so I said, "Let me log in quickly on the on the tablet." So it was like I got in through the tablet, and then the computer comes back on, but it won't serious. Oh my God! I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I was getting ready to log in. Yeah.
Couldn't get the chat room open. But we're good. We're good. I wanted a hard copy so that I could make some notes, but it ain't happening right now. So I'm just going to continue on. So I want to send a big shout out to our internet listeners. The chat room is finally open. Peace and love to our family listening near the corporate construct known as Great Britain. Peace and love, family listening near the corporate construct known as South Africa, Japan, the Netherlands, Islam Brother Albacet, family listening near the Philippines, the family construct known as Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Islam, Puerto Rico, Islam, family listening near Cuba, Mexico, Brazil, Venezuela, and to family we had yet. Islam to the family listening out there near Panama. I got your message, Islam. And also, big shout out to Islam to our family that we had yet to connect with. Big shout out to those who call in, filling up the phone lines before the broadcast even begins, lending your energy, participating so that we can all grow and uplift fallen humanity together. Peace and love. Now, tonight's broadcast is a very interesting one. It's interesting in terms of the information, but it's also interesting because it seems as though this week everyone has been tuned in to this particular subject matter. And so what I did was I put together a syllabus. It's copied and pasted out of the Blacklaw 4th edition dictionary, some definitions from the internet, some historical reference information, and I sent it out via email to everyone that I have an email for. If you would like a copy to follow along, you will need to send an email to MHHS-Eyes Wide Open, and please, what's the word I'm looking for? Bear with me, because there's some technical issues going on. So we're going on with the show. If you would like it, if you don't get it, you can just in time just listen, and I'll get it to you after the broadcast. So with that, before we continue, I just want to let everyone know that Cujo is